So I am with the fabulous and amazing cozy murder mystery writer Kirsten Weiss, who has written 70 plus murder mysteries. You're amazing and prolific. I love your characters. And I thought today I could ask you some questions tell me about one of your favorite characters from one of your books, or maybe it's the new one that's coming out.
Oh gosh, that's tough. I like so many of my characters.
Okay,
I
it
think,
doesn't have to be the favorite, but
yeah,
in the
a
top
favorite character. All
tier.
right, one of my favorite characters is Abigail from my Tea and Tarot series because when I first started writing comedy, I always made my heroines the straight men. So all this craziness was going on around them. They were trying to kind of get a grip on things, and they were the normal people, and they were with who the nutty people were bouncing off of. But then I challenged myself with my Tea and Tarot series to make Abigail funny in her own right and give her a few quirks and make her funny. And I think she came out really good. She's a strong, badass female character who's got a wonderful sense of humor and can laugh at herself and can laugh at the world and can tell funny jokes. And we all need that. We need some jokes in our life. We need fun in our lives.
I love that. I love that. And what's the one that you sent me, Legacy of the Witch?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I liked that character because I could relate to she was starting over. She had lost her husband and was on shaky ground and was starting over. And I always seem to identify with that. I feel like I'm always in a transition. But I also liked it the fact that she didn't just ooh and ah over the guys. She wasn't shallow. There was a lot of depth there.
Yeah, I wanted to create a character there who she was more mature. She'd come through something hard. She was determined not to make the same mistakes again. And one of those mistakes was marrying the wrong guy. And so she was a little bit cynical, but I don't think unhealthily. She had some stuff to get over. But yeah, there were I had fun with that book too because I had 5 hot guys in the book. I made them all love interests and suspects, but she was always playing it cool. Yeah, I'm not gonna jump into anything here. I'm not gonna be ridiculous about this, and that made it even more fun, I think.
Yes, I really liked that. And I also liked it that to me, it seems like such a cliche if my husband died and he was amazing. He was the perfect man. And I like that she didn't hide behind that facade of, no, he was not the right guy.
Yeah, she felt really guilty about that. There was a lot of guilt and inner turmoil that came with that when your husband dies and you weren't happy with the relationship. It's like there's an extra layer of emotional garbage, I think, that can pile on that you have to get through. But I wanted to, yeah, I didn't want to make it easy for her. And I think sometimes it's the whole thing. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Emotionally, I think that's true. Physically, not always. But yeah, we have to struggle for things and we have to go through stuff sometimes. And she certainly does. And that made her a much stronger character in the end.
Yes. And I couldn't, I didn't see what was coming. Like I didn't have a clue who it was. And I like that.
Good. I wanted it to be a surprise at the end, but logical. So readers are able to say, okay, that all makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I love that you write female protagonists who are strong and going through their own transformations. We need it now more than ever, Kirsten. And earlier we were talking about Judy Blume. Can you talk about how she had influenced you growing up?
Yeah, she was such a huge part of my growing up because she really was very good at getting inside young girls' heads, I think, and what young girls at the time were thinking about. And even though I think she was writing about a generation before me, it still was very relevant and topical in its way about the transformation of when you're a young girl and going into puberty and then adulthood and what that is and how confusing it can be and the things that go through your head. So having that in a book, it was much more deep and intimate and impactful, I think, because it was much more intimate and it was much more impactful because it was more intimate. Sorry, I can't. There's too many M words there. Mixing them all up. she, yeah, they were wonderful books, and I learned so much from them, and so many of my friends did too. They were touchstones, so we all could talk about them, and we knew what they were about and what the characters were going through, and we related to our own lives. And that was a very powerful aid to have when you're going through those transformations.
Yeah, I love that. We were talking earlier about how whenever a movie comes out that was based on a popular book, 99.9% of the time people are like, oh, the book was better. And I've come to my own conclusion that because when we're reading a book, it's you and the book. It becomes a part, almost part of you're with the book. And then as you're reading it, you have your own movie going in your own mind, right? Your visuals and you're going to pull from what you've already experienced and what you've seen along with the descriptions or whatever. And my perception is going to be very different than yours. And that's one reason I just reading is so special and it is so intimate. And
Yeah, I think reading seems like an act of co-creation because the author has put the words down, but then the reader is seeing it play out in their head, and they're bringing their own preconceptions to it, and they're doing their own creating. And it's this wonderful, magical thing that is being built between an author who may have died a century ago and the reader today. It's little wonder when you think about how the brain reacts to reading that reading is so good for us and helps lowers the risk of Alzheimer's and helps us age more healthily and reduces stress and does all these wonderful things to our brains, which I'm really afraid in today's age when we're reading less and we're reading shorter, and we're not getting that anymore. We're losing those neural connections and also the human connections.
yes, I love that. And now a quick message. Are you a female business owner or a female in corporate and you know it's time to work on your speaking? It's time to work on your executive presence. You know it's time. You are meant for more. My name's Elaine, and I've helped hundreds of people just like you get more comfortable, more confident, and become a truly charismatic speaker. So that whenever you stand up to speak, whether it's in front of 5 people or 5,000, people lean in anticipation. When you are a charismatic speaker, you have an unfair advantage, and people can't even put their fingers on it. So if this resonates with you, if you're ready for more, you know you're meant for more, click the button below. Let's schedule a call. I'd love to chat with you and find out what you're up to, what you're committed to, what you're excited about, and see if there's a way we could possibly partner or work together. And now, back to the show. And then do you have any other female character that comes to mind that you want to talk about? One other one?
I really love Maddie from my paranormal museum series as well. She comes back from an overseas work where she was a big shot, and she cannot transition back to the US or life in the US, and she ends up running a paranormal museum. And I totally relate to that because I used to work overseas. I had a lot of responsibility, and people knew who I was. And when I came back to the United States, it's like nobody cared. Everybody wanted to interview me because I had all these great stories, but nobody wanted to hire me because I was a weirdo who had all these great stories. But it ended up being really positive for me because I ended up following my childhood dream of becoming a writer simply because I couldn't get a job in corporate America. I could not make it work. And I think I'm much better off and much happier being a writer than I ever would have been in corporate America.
That's amazing, Kirsten. Yeah, sometimes the universe does for us what we can't do for ourselves.
Yeah.
And what was your first book?
My first book was The Metaphysical Detective, featuring Riga Hayworth, who's a metaphysical detective. And that one got started. I'd come home from overseas. I had a job and I hated it and I wasn't very good at it. And so I quit before I could be fired. And I was driving around in the rain, brainstorming to myself possible jobs. What could I do? What could I do? And the phrase metaphysical detective popped into my head. And I thought, what is a metaphysical? What is that? And then I started building from that phrase, like, what would a metaphysical detective look like? What would she do? How would that work? And then I wrote this book about a metaphysical detective. And it was my first book. So that one's a bit rougher than my other ones, but it's close to my heart because of that.
I love it. Thank you so much. And tell us about your thing that's coming up.
I am hosting a Zoom murder mystery party, excuse me, witch murder mystery party on July 13th. It's at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to be playing a murder mystery game where participants can help solve the murder. There'll be prizes. My friend Ellis Elliott, who's also a witch mystery author, is going to be there. We're going to talk about writing witch mysteries, and we'll have a Q&A, and hopefully we'll have some great interaction and then just a lot of fun. I've just created some Zoom backgrounds that are witchy and themed to my book that I'm celebrating, Whispers of the Witch. And you can download those from my website if you want to come to the Zoom, and you can use those backgrounds, or you can just take the backgrounds and be witchy any other time if you want to.
No, but people
But
should come to the Zoom. It's going to be fun.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about the murder mystery game. I've never done it on Zoom before, so it's a bit of an experiment. But I know my readers, they are fun and they are creative, and I think it's going to be a blast.
Awesome. And we'll put the link somewhere around here. And thank you. This was so fun, Kirsten.
Thank you, Elaine.